How do you define creativity?
I have no idea what I'm doing, but I know I'm doing it really, really well.
Technology, everyone was like, "Oh, here we go," but then like,
Yeah, yeah.
doesn't make it easy. It doesn't make you easier to DJ. It just gives you tools now that you could like be a better DJ. So like,
Right.
But I think it's like,
It just okay. So I'm personally, it gets a little. I think we're doing an apples to apple comparison a lot with what AI is doing to the industry, and they'll say like, "Hey, look what the digital camera did to photography." You know, a lot of people were screaming that the industry will be ruined. Blah blah
Right.
blah. It doesn't feel the same only because this is more about eliminating the human element.
yeah,
Like very early on, I remember seeing and reading about Amazon and how Bezos, you can tell he's just trying to eliminate human error, right? So everything about him is refining the process from ordering the thing to getting it to the person and eliminating human error or whatever. And you could see early on, oh man, the second he can get rid of humans, he will. And sure enough, he's been launching fleets of robots now in all his stores. And I remember for a while before Prime existed that I was like, nah, I'm not messing with Amazon. But then my wife got Prime, and it's like, bro, you can't even.
How can you not?
You can't, and it's like a race to the bottom because at the end of the day, you can pay extra and wait longer, or you can just everyone else is doing it and just accept it for what it is. And sure enough, that's the same way I feel about like AI. Like, so AI is, you're not going to tell me that you won't encounter a managerial class of people that are going to come and tell you, hey, I don't want to pay that because I can get this for this amount. All right. So it's going to become harder to prove your value when AI gets you to good. Right.
Yeah, good enough.
The difference between good enough and great, there's going to be a very select few who are willing to pay for great. And so the people who are really good at what they do, who've already established themselves, they'll be fine. But then the ones that are coming up that want to distinguish themselves are going to have a much harder road, and they won't be incentivized to reach great. Because
That's
for
true.
example, my son right now, he's showing so much promise as a creative. Like he draws comics. He's got a hunger for it. He does it. And I'm going to push him in a creative direction, but I would be irresponsible to make it seem like he has, he's going to be able to achieve the standard of life that we're currently living as creatives. At least the way things are right now, wages are kind of funky and stuff.
Yeah.
So I think that for me, I would have to make sure that I'm diversifying his skills and I'm giving him a couple of different looks into where he can use his creativity, but not necessarily in graphic design or illustration, because again, good enough currently is a couple keystrokes away, and it's changing every 6 months. So by the time he's in the market,
But the only thing I guess I'll push back a little bit is that you can argue that maybe the good enough will be like the new standard, I guess, but you're gonna have an upper hand of just even people like now the people that are just have that creative brain and the creative skills and like the different diversification of skills that they can accumulate are still gonna have more value in the market, because now since there's so much technology and AI, you can kind of leverage like, all right, I actually got to use my brain. Like I gotta, even the people using AI, like the example is like, oh, ChatGPT, but then you need someone that knows what to ask it, how to ask it, thinking of things to ask it. That's a job in itself. Maybe that's like a newer job, but that's one example. But like, you're gonna need people that like are creative. So it's like a double-edged sword.
100% creativity is always going to be valuable, but the problem with historically, if you're a creative person, you need to pour that into a craft of some sort, right? So if you're really good at woodworking, you got to earn that skill and apply your creativity to it, and you will typically gain success in that field. The problem is that you're about 2 TikTok videos away from being an expert at how to use AI, and applying creativity to that is not really, like there's a there's I don't want to say like creativity is my superpower. I do feel like a lot of people say, man, I'm stuck, like I hear a lot of people say, well, how do you deal with creative You know, like when you get stuck with an idea, whatever. I have a hard time thinking of a time when I've had trouble coming up with ideas.
Yeah.
And that may be because either I'm banking a lot of ideas or I'm just all over the place. But I say that to say that because you have access to, damn, I lost my train of thought.
No, but it's gonna affect every industry, and I think it's like, even like being a lawyer, like things will get affected of like, even, I mean, I literally have dumped contracts into ChatGPT and just to explain it to me. Yo, I literally explained this to me as I'm a 5th grader. Yo, these are the terms.
And that one feels very like, because I'm not a lawyer, so I feel less guilty of it, but it's interesting because it always felt like that was one of those situations where information is just being gate kept, right? It's literally just about your knowledge of the law and how to manipulate it. Okay, so it does feel like AI is doing a good in that sense because that information has, you know, you'd have to call a lawyer, they charge you for the time. It's a very antiquated way to approach information, and to their benefit, a lot of the information is hard to find. Like, you can't just easily look it up. But AI helps with that.
And don't get me wrong, there's the same thing you said, like there will be a market for good enough.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not gonna spend a $500 an hour call just to figure out the terms of this and like what this means and that means, when I literally just dump it and it regurgitates it back to me and actually gives me better options for my point of view. But then there's things that lawyers get, why they get paid the big bucks, that like they're gonna separate themselves.
It kind of falls into like the risk category. The stakes are really high with a bigger company. So even if AI told you this is the law, whatever, you're probably still gonna go pay a professional to confirm your thoughts.
But at least
on
you have something already in your mind.
Again, like design, unless you're dealing with like a huge brand where you're gonna, UPS is a perfect example because UPS is gonna print boxes, they're gonna print on their buildings, they're gonna print on their trucks, things are gonna get wrapped. There's a million different things that are gonna get the logo on it, right? So you want to make sure you're hiring a professional, and you want to make sure that they're doing their part to ensure they didn't copy a thing by mistake, right? So that's why you pay a pro in that situation. But by and large, and those are very rare, you're working in a creative department, and you might be really talented, but they would probably settle for not giving you a raise and hiring somebody else because, you know, you're kind of just a cog in the machine at this point because AI exists, you know? Again, so if I go back to my kid or like a child or someone young growing up into a creative field, my concern is, where is the incentive to get great? Right?
Because put the energy?
And great is going to be, I don't know, man. The best, I don't have a perfect analogy for it, but I don't mind cutting out pictures in Photoshop. Like, I don't mind tracing. Yeah. It takes a little while sometimes, but I kind of feel good. Okay, I know I did it really clean. Even though AI in the past couple of years has been cutting out pretty well, at first it wasn't. Yeah. So I was like, nah, the hell with that. I'm going to do it by hand. I feel good. And I also took pride in, like, other people don't fuck with this. Yeah. Other people aren't going to do this.
It takes time. It's tedious.
But I don't mind doing it. In fact, I relish the fact that I'm willing to do the thing. Yeah. You know what I mean? I worry that that's not going to be even a mindset for the youth. Sure. Like, because it's like, it wasn't fast. It's not worth it. You know, it's not easy. If it's not easy, it's not meant to be. Like, if it's not microwave level easy, I'm not messing with it. And I'm scared of, I mean, you got to strike a balance because you don't want to take 2 years on something, but
yeah. That's what I was going to say, because like that's actually a perfect example, because that's something where like I used to do it by hand, like cropping out photos, especially of people, and you got to feather the hair, make it right. And I would take pride of like, damn, I got it right.
And it's clean.
But then, yeah, that's one thing that now, especially on Photoshop, the generative AI, like is in one snap, cleans it.
Remove background, and it's super
80% is clean. And then for some projects, I just need good enough because I'm doing the bulk of the rest of the stuff, which I just need the person cut out. So it's like one of those things where like, that's one thing that I'm like, okay, like on some projects, I don't really care because time is more of the essence to focus on the other things. Yeah. But then it goes back to what you're saying, that like there's going to be kids that only come up in that.
Yeah.
Or like just how they only come up with TikTok. They only know this. They only know that. So they don't even know like. But that's like it. I mean, you can make that argument across the board. Cause like DJ, oh, we used to carry records, man. You don't know about that. And like, yeah, I carried records for like 6 months, and then Serato came out. Sorry, you know.
Yeah.
So it's like, I guess it's the balance of
adapting.
adapting.
The DJ industry might be a good example of it for sure, because like at some point, like celebrity DJs just started popping up, and they didn't have the skill. It was all about reputation, like in the sense that, or clout, basically. You know, they're famous, so they'd show up and they're like, yeah, I DJ. Oh yeah, and I love your show.
Yeah, no,
okay, cool, boom,
and that was
DJ.
There was a big time period where that was like a huge thing, and everyone was trying to cash in on it. And for sure, but just like everything else, it's like it's not sustainable. Then it's like, okay, you're like a gimmick DJ, which is cool, and I don't even hate on any of that, because why not? Like if you could find another lane to like kind of capitalize on your audience, cool. But like you're in a different category than the working DJ that like I'm working 3 times a week and whatever. And then the ball comes back around. We're like, all right, now nightclubs. That was cool. It was working, but now I need someone that knows how to DJ and can keep everyone dancing for 5 to 6 hours and make the bar money. Not like a Paris Hilton that's gonna like bring in tickets. So it's gonna be cool for 2 hours and then everyone's out.
You would eventually get exposed in that situation.
Yeah.
I don't know that will be as big an issue with like AI in the graphic design world, only because especially like, and again, if you timestamp this might not even be relevant in 6 months, because the way AI is moving, it's so fast that like it's gonna get to the point where you could, you know, voice chat the thing into a post, like a legit, you know, hey, okay Google, Google, post XYZ, blah blah blah, and it'll do it for you. You know what I mean? Like, and literally from your voice prompt to a post might be
I mean, I worry about that all the time, but then the thing that I guess try to like compromise in my head is that yes, but then there's you literally said oh my,
that's what I get.
I'm scared.
Stop listening to me.
That's scary, dude. Oh, he's working already. But there's like yes, but then there's a certain level of like, even with what you do or what I do, like you can tell someone or AI to do something, but they're not gonna, like, for example, I'll just take myself of, because I have a background from DJing and I've been in the nightlife game and hospitality for a long time. I know how it works inside and out and what people are looking for. So when I apply graphic design to that specific sector of like who I'm dealing with, what they want, there's no AI that's going to be able to understand like, okay, they want to fly a certain way because this is what they're going for, and because like it's a nightclub, or because they're selling this type of event, or whatever the case is. Like you can't contextualize that to AI, at least for now. Yeah. So it's like the specific person and interest that you have, or like your 305 pride is like based heavily on Miami heritage and culture. Like no one's gonna be, you can't tell AI, hey, make a Miami Heat inspired flip from the 1980s because it was da-da-da, and then Tim Hardaway shot the 3 in the finals against the New York, but we lost. Like they don't know that.
100%. You definitely have to have, I mean, you can get the right prompts. But if so let me play devil's advocate a little bit with AI, because we're not getting rid of AI. It's going to be here. We have to accept it. If you have someone that's younger than you and they appear to be very precocious in the creative field, and you want to nurture that, I would say that the way to push them is towards engineering and entrepreneurship, because the biggest flex that it's going to give everybody is, if you're small and you can't afford to hire a designer, now you're pretty good if you just use AI. It'll get you. Get you far along. If you're starting a business and you're building a thing, it's great to have AI in that situation. And if you're, you're interested in a field where you're creative and you don't want to be an entrepreneur, then engineering has a lot of opportunities for creativity, whether it be in robotics or inventing things. And again, AI is probably going to affect it, but not as extreme as the graphic design or illustration fields. And music, I think, is gonna probably, from what I've seen, it's gonna probably be pretty bad too.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you already see it with like the AI songs and all that.
But ownership is the key.
Yeah.
You know, like that's why I say entrepreneurship, because now you're using it as a tool to grow a business.
Whatever
as opposed
it is you're
to
into.
if you're an employee, you're going to have a harder time competing because your boss is only looking at the spreadsheet and he's like, this guy costs half the price and he does good enough. This guy, I literally just went to an interview and had to deal with this. This guy costs, you know, he's charging more and it's probably better. But, you know, the bottom line is we're going to save money with this guy and get the job done.
Oh, and I don't know if you've heard of, I think the term is like shadow workers or shadow, where now people are starting to like, they apply for a job and like maybe they have somewhat of experience or knowledge in it, but they're not really qualified. But then they'll get their way through the door, get hired, and then they outsource either to someone that knows or use AI or whatever. To give them a couple months to like, all right, now like me and my overseas worker that I'm paying like a third of my salary to is like in sync, and then they're just chilling, and then they work like that for 6 months to a year. Then now they have a resume of like, oh look, I did this over here. Yeah, let me apply for the next one, and then he just takes he's
scaling that whole process. He's got like 4 jobs.
Yeah, there's people that like legit either. You know, it starts. Some people, I've heard of people doing it because like, yo, it's a helping hand. Like I'm paying out of pocket technically to like get help.
At the end, okay. So again, not knocking the hustle, right? So respecting the hustle, then by all means, if they're getting what they need and you're doing the work, and that's why like it's hard for me to get mad at the whole AI thing, because if I'm an owner of a business and I'm looking at the bottom line, I'm in that point of view. I get it, but then also, you know, some people went to school for it. They, you know, they've been developing a craft for years, and they're trying to earn their worth. They're trying to make a living in South Florida. But you know, a younger kid will come in who's willing to live at his mom's house and get paid whatever to get in the door, and boom. Like when I say that I just recently went to an interview, it was like for a really good place, and I don't know. I've always been pretty good at interviews, but when I tell you I knocked this one out the park, they called me in for a second one. We had a bunch of phone calls. It was like, bro, I think I got this. And then all I can think is I did bring up money, right? Like, because I'm like, look, man, you know, which is always a taboo. But I feel like if you don't get that out up front, you're not doing anybody a service, because they suffer and you suffer, right? You suffer first, and then they start suffering when you're doing other things you shouldn't be doing to make the extra money. Yeah. And so I bring it up as respectfully as possible, but I'm almost 100% sure whoever the other candidates were, when they're weighing the options, they're going to go with the one that didn't give them that, you know, whatever it might be. So that's all I can think of, man. Because outside of that, like in my interview, like I said, I felt like I knocked it out the park. And again, so this is all hearsay, of course, right? But it just brings you back to that position where, you know, you're going to wonder if you can. I heard someone saying earlier in another podcast, shouts out to Made in House. Literally today was talking about how if you have what is it when you don't feel like you belong, like you're not qualified, imposter syndrome, that you might be in a position for a job and be scared to negotiate, right? Because you're like, oh my God, I'm in the room, you know, like let me just get the thing. And so somebody might be there just willing to take whatever they give you. And while you might be the one that's really qualified, you won't get it because you were willing to fight for what you're worth.
Yeah, and actually, I wanted to ask you about that, like with imposter syndrome and all that. Like, you went to school for the arts. Like, you know, I was looking at your track record, and you went, you know, the high school you went to, the college, like you went to the Art Institute, correct?
Yeah, yeah.
And like you're saying now, it's like you don't really need to do any of that to get introduced to the creative space or even get a job. It's like, let me see your work, let me see what you could do. So like, how do you kind of feel that's changed from since when you were studying this to like now, where like I didn't go to school for anything I do. So I'm always curious to ask people, like, because that's something I struggle with, of like, man, this guy went to school, like he actually studied this, he knows the language, he knows, like, he's been doing this for years, and I'm like a YouTube tutorial kid that learned, you know, by myself.
I love this question, and we should probably jump into mindset stuff at some point, because it is all mindset. When I say that I went to Art Institute when I was already about to finish, I was about to go in heavy into architecture. I was like already doing all my prerequisites. I'd done my prerequisites, and I was like knee deep in architecture school at FIU, and I saw a commercial from AI saying game design. Now, up until that point, they specifically said computer animation, which I wasn't necessarily interested in. It was game design that caught my eye. And it was the Miami location, not the Fort Lauderdale one. So I was like, okay. At the time, I was working at a firm, seeing that my bosses hated what they were doing. And seeing that their bosses hated what they were doing. And then it was like only the head architect was the guy that's getting creative. And he was like 20 years in the game, gray hair. Like it just felt like, and that was my second firm. So I'd seen this before and I was like, man, is this what it is? Like, I don't know. I can't really speak to it even to this point, but it didn't feel like it was going to be a creative space for me. So I saw the commercial and I immediately jumped on the Art Institute thing, and I've been told, be careful with Art Institute, be careful with loans. I did it anyway. I bet on myself. It was a little crazy jump out of the plane kind of thing. Now, the reason I'm saying all that is to say that when I was there, they accept anybody. A traditional art school is only going to look at your portfolio and accept based on a quality. Like you need to meet a standard. Like AI was for profit, so they'll accept anybody. If you say you want to, they'll take you. You got money? Okay, come along. So that should give you a little bit of an idea on the quality of education. Now, not to say that the quality was bad. They had great facilities. They had instructors were great, but the people that were coming out of there, and I'm sure you can attest to this in any field, when you get into the field, you will learn more in 6 months than you ever did in school. It's the same with graphic design.
Yeah.
Okay. I was working at a print shop, and once I left the architecture thing, and I was doing that full time while I was going to school at Art Institute down the street. I learned more in that print shop than I ever learned at Art Institute. And I paid my way working at that print shop. And that is basically that was my version of YouTube, but it was by like, jumping in the deep end of the pool basically. Because I'm there. I know how to use Photoshop a little. I know how to use Illustrator a little. But these guys were like, yeah, you know how to use it? Yeah, they gave me the job and I just faked my way. But I did have the artistic background. I did go to school. I went to middle school, Norland Middle, magnet program. So I had the confidence of that.
Yeah.
And so I just applied it to the tools. Once I learned the tools, now because at that time I was using AutoCAD so much, I was confident in software in general. I was like, I'll figure out all the shortcuts. Yeah. So I was big on shortcuts. I got really fast. And so I want to say that the point of all that is that in the end of the day, the piece of paper that the school gives you is just something that you can use as leverage in a conversation or as like a badge of honor, or, connection. A lot of people may be representatives of a community, or maybe they have a lot of fame because they're on social media, like some guys are just speakers. They don't necessarily show their work in our industry and like in design stuff. And if you looked at their actual work, you'd be like, bro, this guy's not even great.
Yeah.
I mean, they have great insight. They speak, they're incredible speakers and they help a ton of people with their advice, but they're not really good designers. You get what I mean? So at the end of the day, sometimes what you're mistaking for imposter syndrome is just they'll say reframe. Yeah. But it's just tweak your brain a little bit, like.
Yeah, everyone uses imposter syndrome, but it's really just insecurity, that everybody has. That's in every industry. Like same thing with the DJ. Like you see someone on social media, and you're like, man, they're killing it, but then you actually go see them, and it's like, oh, it's not that great. It's just they're giving you the highlight on Instagram. But that's crazy because I remember around the time I was gonna go to college, I was like, we were just talking about it the other day. There was like Full Sail, there was SAE, Art Institute. I was like, man, the Art Institute. But I was just like, I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. Like, I mean, thank God I got accepted into FIU. So I did that whole thing. But at the same time, I was like learning, like putting fuel to the fire. And some people argue that why go to school for 4 years to then try to get the job in the thing that you went to school for. And then you join a company to learn how that company works, how things work. And then it's like you're prolonging instead of like, just go straight to the thing you're interested in, do an internship or start at the bottom, learn on the job. And then those 4 years, you probably climb your way up if you're good enough and you're like hungry and.
Yeah, 100%. I don't want to discredit schools in general.
Oh, for sure.
There's definitely value in there. I would just weigh the options. The truth is, though, it's like you're saying, if you're a self-starter, I'll put it to you this way. If somebody came to me personally, if I was in a position to hire and I had somebody who has shown me that they know how to learn on their own, they've gone in YouTube University themselves to like, wow, that's really good. As opposed to somebody who has a decent portfolio that went to school, I'm going to choose the guy who taught himself because that's a go-getter. They're going to figure it out. They're a self-starter. The other person might have it in them as well, but they obviously, they're relying on all of that. It does give you a bit of pedigree though, because I know I've been in situations where had I not have thought, damn, I got to pay that student loan, I might not have charged what I should have charged. You get what I mean? So to a certain extent, there's like maybe if you're coming into it thinking, man, but the guy who went to AI is charging that much, so I should be charging that much, right? If you're doing that, that's great. But by and large, I think most people might come to it like, shit, I learned this on YouTube. I can charge 50. Yeah. So to a certain extent, it might devalue the industry, But that's a bigger, at the end of the day, as far as when it comes to imposter syndrome, they say reframe. It's basically just how you, perspective, how you look at it. I remember being afraid to ride roller coasters, and I saw a little kid younger than me getting off the roller coaster I was scared to ride on, and I was like, this is some bullshit. If he can get on that. And I use that analogy all the time in my brain. Like, bro, there's somebody less qualified doing what you want to do with not even an awareness of how high on a pedestal you have this thing.
Yeah, and
all kinds of
that's usually the part of the recipe for that person's success is they're not even, because they not overthinking this. They're like, they're
slightly dumb about it.
Yeah,
like slightly unaware of how hard the thing is. So they just jump
oblivious or naive or whatever the word is. But like they're like, yeah, why wouldn't I just put this out here? Why wouldn't I just do this? Like,
oblivious,
who cares?
Much better word than dumb. 100%. Not dumb, bro. Just you were unaware, and I've done that a million times. Constantly oblivious of how hard could it be. Jumped in. Yeah. Oh crap, this is hard.
But we do it all the time, and things that like aren't our space.
Yeah.
Because you're not thinking about it. You're like, this is not my world. So like, who cares?
Yeah.
But then when in your world where you should probably be more confident, you're like, I don't know, man.
Isn't
I don't
that
know.
weird?
It's
man.
crazy.
We'll give it like this weird, we'll put it way up on this pedestal, and it's not no pa tanto.
Sometimes the thing I tell myself is like when I first started doing jiu-jitsu, like I'm a novice. I know nothing. But I like within like 6 to 8 months, I did my first competition, which like if you look at it from the outside perspective, like, bro, you don't know shit. Like, you're just going to jump in there. But like, I just did it. I didn't even think it was a big deal. I lost and I was like, wow, it was fun. Cool. But like everything else, you're like, oh, bro, like I can't do this. Like if I put this out there, someone's going to think. And it's like, bro, I almost like fucking got hurt.
It kind of has to be a balance, right? Like you got to respect the thing, but you also can't you can't overthink it, and you have to have a little bit of reckless. All the startup books or podcasts will always say fail quickly. Yeah. And part of that is being slightly oblivious to it, just jumping in, making a couple mistakes, adjusting and just moving. But it's about like sort of, it always feels like from the outside looking at it, it looks like you're kind of disrespectful of the craft, but it's not that. It has more to do with you're just relentlessly chasing the thing and you're just jumping into it. And, you learn quickly through failure into success.
For sure. And I mean, you've had like a lot of experience in different mediums, like, but where do you think your kind of creativity first switched off in your head? And not even like in school or anything, just maybe as a kid or.
So I noticed as a kid, I wanted to write like a typewriter. I don't know why. I would be like, I guess maybe forging my fucking report cards back in the day. For those who aren't old enough, you used to have to take a piece of paper home and it had your grade on it. And some of those F's are very easy to turn to B's if you have the right pen and the right skill. Anyway.
You found the paper in Office Depot.
Yeah. So anyway, I was trying to get good at that for some reason. And I saw a kid draw a Ninja Turtle. Ninja Turtles were the fucking bomb when I was a kid. And I was like, holy shit. You could draw Ninja Turtles? Like, we could dare to draw the cartoons that we see on TV? That's a thing? This is like second grade. And I was like, mind blown. I don't know why I hadn't been exposed to that idea at the time, but I saw him draw the Ninja Turtle and I just couldn't stop drawing after that, right? And so my teacher, the art teacher for the school, took notice and she kind of took me under her wing. And this is all like in, hindsight, because at the time I don't really, I'm not aware of this, but she was helping me out. She was helping me with projects. I started winning awards. I started getting stuff in little gallery, like kid stuff, but I didn't even know art was a thing in that regard, right? Like I was just drawing for fun. And at the end of the 5th grade, she gave me like the award for art, and she got me into the magnet program in the neighboring school. I didn't know it was a magnet program. My mom was I'm an only child, and she was single parent. She doesn't have time for any of this shit, right? So thank God for her, because landing in that program was a 2-hour-a-day art program every day. I had no PE, thank you. But instead of PE, I had art, and it affected everything.
Oh, for sure.
All the kids that went to that program were super talented, and a lot of them abandoned art altogether because it became work. That's how, at that age, I would say, it was sort of intense to a certain extent, but that just gives you an idea of how it is. Like, it wasn't just art. It was kind of like you're getting, this is a skill, you need to work on it.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people abandoned art after that because they lost the love of it. Some of them blew up and did a bunch of things. That was my foundation. So I went to Turner Tech for drafting, which is why I ended up in architecture at FIU. And I did really well. Like I won awards and stuff for that. And then Art Institute and working at the print shop is what got me into doing graphic design. I never exposed to graphic design as a business either. My buddy went up to me one time and said, "Hey man, you know how you use Photoshop?" This is before the print shop. I'm like, yeah, I know how to. Did his album cover, like a mixtape cover. And that's what really got me going with like designing for people, freelancing. And then I was the guy doing going to JPEG graphics on South Beach, if you know that, way back, and going to, Club Flyers, which is still there, and all those other, print running companies and doing for clubs and all that. So I think that's in everybody's DNA if you've been designing for a while in South Florida. I worked at a screen printing. Damn, I've lived too many lives. I worked at a screen printing company after graduating from AI, and I fell in love with t-shirts. So that's where it became a canvas, because the idea of putting your design on something people wore, and like the application of it, the placement, like there was a puzzle element to it, prepping it for print, all the things that go into that. It really captured my, like, I guess the creativity, but there's like an element of it that it's not just creativity. You got to understand how to use the medium. And if I give you an example, there's nothing more elegant to me than like when you figure out a one color design, one location that bangs, that goes, that people buy, like, they fall in love with it. I have a Flanagan's design, which is like a flip of Flanagan's, but with Flanders, and it's like 305 till I diddly die, right? It's one color, one location, black shirt. It goes, bro. If you're in the right place and they see the shirt, you're gonna get a comment, or if I'm selling them, they're gonna buy it. It's one of our best sellers, and I love that, because when you think about the manufacturing and everything kind of complicates its way. It gets more complicated as it goes down the pipeline. The pipeline. So when you're only dealing with a one color, print, you don't have to bring the machine around twice. You know what I mean? You don't have to worry about messing up a shirt on the third impression.
Like a hole in one, like.
Yeah, man. So like when you figure out those one color killers, it's like there's something really special about that.
One color killers. But I think you're saying like you also like the process that you're able to, from the idea in your head, put it down on a paper, then put it down in either Photoshop, Illustrator, then do that puzzle game of finding the right shirt, the right location, the right print, then the art of the actual screen printing or press.
Which, by the way, I would be remiss if I didn't mention my partner, Lino, Hale Inc. Shout out. At Hale Inc., best printer in town. And I might be a little biased, but I genuinely believe he does the best quality work. He takes a lot of pride in what he does. 305 pride. And he does really high quality work. But if playing with that whole puzzle part of it, like when you're with the creative stuff, right? So the bottle that's here, this is a perfect example of how that works. A few years ago, I'm always looking at the brands that I used to see when I walked through Sedanos as a kid. Because as a kid, I would look at the brands and be like, man, that could look so much nicer. Even as a kid, it's gotten a lot better over the years, but even still. But what I was doing was I was like, oh man, what would be cool flips. I'm looking at, Materva, different drinks. Then I'm looking at Hatway, I think is how you pronounce it, which my wife like let me know I was doing it wrong. I've always read it as Hatui, right? And I was probably wrong. Well, according to my wife, I was wrong. But in my mind, I'm thinking of Patui, like spitting, right? Hatui, Patui. Whoa. So when Haktua was doing its rounds as a meme, I immediately was like, oh, like Hatui. And I'm like, oh, whoa, what if I flipped? So that's how my creative brain is working. Like there are just things that are on hold back here, and then it's just waiting for the universe to trigger that idea. Boom.
Put them together.
And I even thought to myself, man, I probably shouldn't do that. It's a little bit low vibration in a sense, because it's referring to fellatio or whatever. Like that's not our vibe, right? But then I was like, malcriada instead of Malta. And then that kind of brought it together for me, because it's not so much about the fellatio, which I'm sure some people are interpreting it about that. Yeah. I'm looking at it more like she's a malcriada, like she's a pata sucia type of gal, and she's out here partying, which is fine. Girls, this is a Miami culture thing. This is, again, not knocking the hustle. You're out here enjoying your youth and going to the party scene. It is what it is. It's part of Miami. So that's what that was like, because one of our biggest things is the seasoning that we bring to Miami, right? El adobo that we bring is basically chancletazos, abrazos, and, that kind of stuff. So, because we're on that. So it's like when I was able to kind of connect that and not feel like this is venturing off into like low vibration stuff, I was like, oh man, yeah, I can do it. And that's how this kind of thing came to be.
But yeah, I mean, I think you were saying earlier, like you had that idea like already kind of percolating in the back of your head, and then this thing in the universe came to you of like, wow, that's a perfect marriage. Yeah. And then you kind of like, all right, let's see what happens if I put them together. And then you're, on the fence about it. But then I think what you're saying, the way you're looking at it all together as a project made sense. We're not talking about fellatio. I don't even think people are more about like, oh, that girl, it was a viral moment, but like no one even really knows what she's talking about.
Yeah, it's more and like the time. I was hoping for that, because I don't want like again. Yeah. And then I got some negative comments, which is fine. I never really want to give too much energy to it. I was actually kind of happy, because I'm like, oh man, finally I got a hater. And
you're doing something right.
Well, yeah, for sure. And he was like, well, because I don't know if you know the story of the original Hatway, but he apparently was burned at the stake because he refused to convert to Christianity. And it was like, it's a really cool story. Look it up. Very cool guy. He was like, he was basically a rebel. And his comment was like, man, it sucks that he burned at the stake, and this is what he's, and I'm like, bro, if you're really mad, go take it out on Hatway, the brand. Like these guys are capitalizing on it heavy. Like my whole thing with this is a fun novelty. We got these bottles. I made this packaging, and the way I approached it was like, I'm not gonna make 100,000 of these, bro. Like I do these by hand. It's a pain. So I'm gonna do a couple of these, and it's gonna be fun. And at the bottom there is a QR code that takes you to our website where you can listen to a malcriada mix. So the idea is, this is a fun vibe setting humor thing. You put it on your you can have it at the office, and when you want to set the vibes, scan the bottom, or you can have it at home, give it as a gift. It's that kind of thing, like I'm not going to become a millionaire off of the Haktua girl, Yeah. But and I think that's kind of the spirit of the brand, because like we move quickly. We're two guys that are really good at our respective fields. So if I get an idea and I want to execute it, I can get it ready to print within a day, and my buddy can get it going within a day, and we can, we have merch,
So how did like how did you turn into like starting a brand? Because I mean, now listening to you talk, I can't picture you in an architecture firm at all, or like sketching, like, you know. So how did you kind of shift into like, I'm gonna start this brand and, you know, pay, I guess, homage to Miami, but also like things that you related to as a child and like infuse that into your brand?
So me and my childhood best friend started a brand in '06 called Rocket Science, spelled really funky, and made all the mistakes, learned a ton. But after the print shop, I was working in more design-related jobs.
Right.
I did, however, after working at the screen printer, really fall in love with making T-shirts. And that's how I fell into that part. Obviously, the first brand didn't do well. And my friend that I grew up with, he passed away. And around the time that he passed away, my partner, Lino, reached out to me, like almost like sent by God, right? Like sent by my buddy or whatever. It's like, hey man, if you're interested in starting a brand, you know, I'm ready. I'm done building other people's dreams, kind of thing. And I'm like, oh, I'm with it. Let's go. And I was like, you know, tear my eye and everything. So we launched the brand, and the thing about the first brand was that I was just banking ideas. I have all these ideas, and the outlet I was doing was, we did a 305 design, but the brand wasn't 305 centric. So, and that was one of our more popular shirts. So I thought I'd start doing these little 305 Pride posts in my main feed for the Heat, because we were on that run. Right. So I was like, we were beating whoever we were beating.
Is it LeBron era?
Yeah. Like, I think we were beating the first time we beat San Antonio or whatever.
Yeah.
I made like a sartén with their logo on it and a spoon, and I put 305 Pride on it. And like, it was just a post, a bunch of memes, but they were all 305 Pride themed. Like, because this is before it was a brand, and I was like, man, that name has a ring to it because it rhymes, 305 Pride.
Yeah.
So I really liked it, and I didn't think about like the word pride as how is it, you know, affects to the community, which now in retrospect, I'm like, maybe, but I messed up there a little bit because I don't want to misrepresent. But I think most people get it. Like,
once you see the page, you understand exactly.
Yeah. And so then when I was trying to come up with a name for a new brand, because I had the itch, I had the ideas, and I was starting to see, like, shouts out to Martha of Miami, because she was really doing it. Like, she was out here building a Miami-centric brand, and a bunch of other brands started to do it too. But I felt like, man, I could do something too, but more in my flavor. Like, not following, but sort of just adding, right? And so that's where I was like, okay, 305 Pride, I got these funny things. My first one was La Chancla flip of the Mommy's Heat, the Miami Heat. Yeah. We call it Mommy's Heat. And it was basically, you know, a flip-flop instead of a basketball. And that kind of set the whole tone. You know, we got the chancleta, we got the cafetera, we got a stimulus character. Everything was about stimulants. You get stimulated by a chancleta, or you get stimulated by the caffeine. But yeah, that was kind of the basis creatively.
You think, now that I think about it, you think that LeBron 2011, 2013 era almost like catapulted Miami brands that were, because there was a lot during that period where like we were just getting so much exposure, and then there was like so many ties to the Heat, so people were starting to do a lot of Miami Heat merch, a lot of flips, a lot of merchandise, a lot of Miami stuff. Yeah,
100%, man. He definitely made the city. He put us on the big stage for sure. And yeah, and that's just I guess anytime something's moving the culture like that, you're gonna see merch.
Yeah, exactly. So a lot of people started to tap into that. So how do you kind of like capitalize, or not capitalize, but I guess balance like that, having a brand, but then, you know, you're also running a business and you need to generate some sort of income?
Terribly. That is the hardest part, because you know, you want to, it's not the kind of thing you can, you'd put too much pressure on a brand this size if you expect to make a living off of it early on, right? It has to be something that you do as a passion project and grow it. I'm not a business, like I'm not an MBA kind of, like in the sense that I don't know the inner workings of like how to get loans and things like that. But I'm sure that if you went about it a certain way, you could probably get some funding. If you're working, maybe if it was, if you found a partner that was willing to bankroll, that would be one thing. But my leverage is I have the experience and I have the skill. And then my partner is the other piece of that because he has his day job is his business, which is printing shirts. So that's why it makes sense for us. Now, the business side of it, you have to do some soul searching and you need to be willing to, not willing, you need to be organized and say, hey, if this succeeds, we'll make X amount and that's enough to do the next thing. Yeah. Right. But if you're terrible with money, as I have been historically, you may not be doing the math so much as you're trying to get the ideas out, which I don't know if you're on my feed now, you'll notice I'm dropping a lot of stickers because I have a bank of ideas that are killing me. Like if I don't get these ideas out, they keep me up at night. So like, and that was a big revelation for me was because not everything needs to be a shirt. I wanted to put everything on a shirt.
It's also a good way to test your ideas because like one sticker is just banging and people are hitting it and buying it.
And more selfishly, if I'm being honest with you, I just need to get the idea out, bro.
Yeah.
I need to get it out. It's like it drives, bro. I have a constant battle with like, I have this idea I need to get out. I've gotten to the point where sometimes I'll have an idea that I have no use for. And I just got to give it to somebody. Hey, bro, you look like you might be willing to. And I don't want credit. I just want to see it out in the world. I want to see it succeed. I want to know that the quality of the ideas that I'm coming up with have a space in the world.
I think that's a healthy way to.
Yeah, like I've done it before, and then like it's mixed. Like sometimes I've met people where it's like, I don't really want to, like I don't want to take somebody else's idea. Yeah. I'm like, bro, I don't even want credit. Like I just want you to do it. And then I've seen people like do it, and then maybe it didn't have the push it needed, and it didn't go where it was going. But I just want to see it out there, bro. Like
or even just saying it out there. Like I mean, we do this all the time here, which I think is super healthy. Where it's like something comes in my head, it's just eating me up at night. I'm like, bro, I'm gonna tell these guys tomorrow. See what they think, and it's either like you build on it, and it's like, oh, what if you do it like this, or maybe we do it like that or that, or there's like, bro, but that's terrible because blah blah blah, and you're like, oh, I got a different insight. Or like I'm gonna do it anyways because you said it's terrible, but like I got it out either through voice or through actually putting it on.
The second part of that, this is why I started giving it away, is because if you start certain ideas, they don't merit the full effort. Push, right? They just don't. But maybe for that person, it fits them better, so it does merit it. But like, so for example, if you put the idea out but you don't push it, you'll always have but what if? I battle with what if all the time. What if I had pushed that harder? What if I had done X, Y, Z? I need to know that I did what I feel was enough. Like, okay, I did enough. It didn't do what it was supposed to. I can abandon the what if of that. Like, what if messes with me?
Well, how do you know?
Because, and honestly, the whole thing is what if. Like, I have an idea. I want to get it out there. What if I put it out? Right? But the what if doesn't finish until I know it's been pushed enough for me to know, okay, that didn't have legs, or okay, it is what it is. The world wasn't ready for it, or it just never had.
How do you gauge that what if? Like I pushed it enough, or
I put my what ifs very early and very tangible. Like, oh, I got to pay bills. Like I got to work on this other thing. The universe literally didn't give me enough time to finish the thing to that level. So I feel like I gave it the effort that I could at the time. So I'm cool with that. My hands are clean. I did what I could. But if it's like, damn, you could still kind of go back to that. You could still kind of push it again. That's going to mess me up because I have a new idea that I want to do. But then I'm also thinking, but I didn't even really push that last one. Like I could go back and push that properly. So there's a little bit of that.
But I think there's some things that you probably know in the back of your mind. Like with this, you're like, it just came all together at once. And you're like, man, I'm going to see how far I could push this.
Honestly, I wasn't going to do it. I opened the logo. I put it on Photoshop. I was like, oh, this would be so funny. And I just start fucking with it. 30 minutes pass, an hour pass. I'm like, damn. I'm going to have to do this, bro. And then it just became like, just a sticker. And then I was like walking in Sedano's doing groceries. And I was like, hey, let me go check out the bottle right quick. I look at the bottle. They got a 6-pack. It's got this carton stuff. I'm like, I could probably flip that. that'd be funny too. And then I take that home and I start tinkering of, my wife is looking at me sideways because she knows I'm about to spend too much time on this. And then next thing you know, I come up with this thing. This thing is laminated. It's nice, nice quality, printed on both sides, got a QR code, got a funny message at the bottom. I went way too hard on this, right? But bro, I don't know. Like I said, some ideas you're driving the car. This idea, I was locked in the trunk and the idea was driving the car. And
Rick Rubin.
happens to me, bro. Like I'm trying my best with some of these things, but I do feel like when you bring a tangible element to a design, it does give it more appeal, more value. And I have a couple of really funny ideas that I want to start to execute, and I want to collaborate. I'm looking forward to maybe collaborating with you guys on something.
For sure.
And yeah, it's just a matter of moving in that direction and just getting eyeballs, man. The economy of eyeballs and people seeing
attention.
you. Yeah, man.
But I think like if something, I'm not saying this is going to go nowhere, but I think just putting that out because you just wanted to do it, it won't keep you up at night.
100%.
Even
this is the what if of this is done.
And
like I'm done with it.
Absolutely, you do nothing with it. Like you just were able to convert an idea you had that popped into your head, and then this thing in culture happened with the Hawk Tuah girl, and you just did it from start to finish. Like I think you can be satisfied with the fact that you had an idea and you executed it all the way. And yeah, maybe you didn't make money or gain notoriety out of it, but you did it.
Yeah. No, 100%. That's that lets me feel at ease with it. Obviously, the goal would have been like, oh, it gets shared everywhere because it's like, oh, look at this fool, bro. He did this funny flip, and that's like the goal. It's like it really is to just be funny, like bringing levity. We got enough going on. Like you can't scroll without getting political. You can't scroll without getting into argument. And I just honestly, man, I don't want to add to that. Like I want to ideally bring a little bit more levity to like the whole, the landscape of South Florida. I never want to align to anything political, not because I don't stand for something, but because, bro, there's plenty of people doing that. You don't need all that. We're trying to have fun here, and I want an outlet where I can just put ideas out. Yeah.
No, I mean, that's literally what I'm doing with this. Like, I feel like this is my outlet that I enjoy the most. And like, I'm my whole thing is like, I'm from sitting here, and even these guys from sitting here, we're gaining a bunch of value and knowledge from hearing you talk. So like, I'm already happy with that. But then if like 1, 2, 100 people hear it and they gain something, that's even great. Obviously, I would love for, us to put this episode on and a million views. But
ideally,
I'm cool with just doing it, and I want to do it.
The conversation is evergreen, and if for who knows how big something gets in the future.
Exactly.
Even if it's not the podcast and it's something related to your podcast, and then retroactively people come back, they listen to something that you've recorded.
Yeah.
And it brings tons of value.
Exactly.
If I wanted, like, I guess depending on where you are in your journey, I do want to say that mindset is probably one of the bigger things that we all kind of need to be attentive to, especially as creatives, because it is like forgetting the whole feeling like you're not what was it? I keep forgetting the phrase.
Imposter syndrome.
Yeah, if you're not feeling like an imposter, forget the whole imposter thing. We have to deal with am I chasing the right thing? Am I wasting my time? Oh my God, I got bills to pay. Like that whole conversation that you're dealing with every day. That is the one that we need to be healthy about. Like that's the one that we need to figure out how to put perspective on. So I can't tell you what soul searching specifically to do, but I know me personally, when I am in a negative mood, nothing positive comes from it. So because negativity will beget more negativity. So if you can put yourself in a state of positivity, whether it be from meditation, listening to something, or setting the mood in the morning, then I would highly recommend that you do those exercises in some kind of routine, because it's really easy to get, especially as a creative, you're ready.
Vulnerable.
You have to be, right? What makes you a good creative? Vulnerability. But if you're letting the wrong things in, it'll take you down the wrong path. So you got to make sure that, you set yourself into, like, okay, perfect example. if you reframe time, my buddy who passed away told me, hey, time is a tool, right? And at first glance, that sounds ridiculous because that shit was due yesterday. I'm in trouble already. The client's mad. No, it means that if you approach time as a tool, you will start to plan things ahead, right? So it's the restructuring or the reframing is that, okay, I know I need to get organized with my time on a daily basis. Let me plan my day and make my calls. And, oh, hey, man, I know I said I have it on Friday, but it looks like I'm going to need Saturday and Sunday, so let's make it Monday, right? That's how time becomes a tool. Or I need to outsource this because I can pay somebody for their time, and now their time is my tool to help me execute the thing. And I literally just perspective, right? Because time can either be a constraint or it could be a tool. So, this one dude was saying that fear is the tool of the devil. So if you are in fear constantly, you are worshiping the devil, which, I mean, I guess if you follow that it might be a little extreme. Like, I don't want to go all the way over there, but there's something to the idea of fear. And like, I think we're genetically predispositioned to be pushed by fear because, like, it used to be the tiger in the bush or the predator. You know what I mean?
It's in
like
our DNA.
And especially if you're like, if you think about tribes, right? Like the hunter and gatherer, right? Like you'd be out there trying to avoid the winters or preparing for the winters or the thing that could kill you in an instant, the plant that's poisonous, whatever. So fear is a tool in that regard. So instead of looking at fear, letting fear control you, you have to know how to use it as a tool. Like fire could burn your house down, or it could be used to cook food.
Yeah, and I think that's a perfect analogy. Like, even sometimes I use that as a tool, as like, there's some things where I almost purposely, I'm gonna procrastinate on it. I'm gonna go up to the deadline because then I need, for this
The
particular thing, I need that fear and pressure
of it,
to like lock in and be like, yo, I'm gonna go 12 hours on this or whatever it is. But like, it's just right now is occupying my mind in a way that like I can't. It's 4 weeks out. I can't really give it that time or effort to be like, let me sit down and break this up. It's like, no, this particular thing, I need that like crunch. Or then you reframe it the other way, or like, let me outsource here, let me outsource there, let me talk with this person, whatever. But do you have like a routine or something that you try to stick to like avoid that, like that time crunch or even burnout or things like that?
I don't know. Okay, so I'm an early bird, like I mentioned or before the pod. Like I wake up at 4, and it's not a flex at all. Like, but because I go to sleep like an old man. But the reason it's good is because nobody's solitary. There's a couple key things I do. I do some fitness stuff. I get on the computer, and I write some stuff down. Like, and as long as I stick to those 3-ish things, by and large, I'm pretty good. Time management has never been my superpower. Like, I've always been very hit or miss with it. It's not intentional. I carry a lot of shame about it, but it is something I've gotten a lot better about. But because money and time go hand in hand, that's where the issue is, right? Because like I do things for love, bro. Like, I'll be doing things that I did not charge enough for.
Right.
Because I'm so excited to do the thing.
Yeah. And
that's just a lesson that's been very hard for me to learn as time's passed. I'm way too old to be still not great at it. But it's one of those things. The best tool I can give you is just to make organization the same way. If you're thinking about fitness, try to apply that 30 minutes or 15 minutes to some form of organization, whether it be writing it down on paper, putting it into your organizational tool of choice, app, etc.
Yeah.
I have ideas, and if I am not careful, I'll talk to somebody for 30 seconds and lose the idea.
Yeah.
So I try to throw it into my chat, then drop it into my book, and I've probably forgotten more ideas than a lot of people have had just from. And yeah, man, that's an important part of it. The organization. If you're hyper creative, try to temper it with some organization. Yeah. If you're super organized, then maybe you can link up with somebody who's super creative and be like a really dynamic duo.
Yeah, I think that's super important. I mean, I went through that phase of like, how can I be most organized, optimal? And like, go balls deep rabbit hole into like every single tool, and I've used like digital notes, apps, project management,
find a balance,
and always goes back to pen, paper, write the 4 things, and just focus on that and keep looking back to it, so you're not always on your phone checking and then thinking like, oh, but I didn't cross it out, and so it's like, I mean, for me personally, like the note.
That might be another thing you're bumping into there that's kind of important, is like giving yourself grace. Because if you spend too much time like mad about how you didn't execute the whatever it is, whether it be I didn't maximize this day that I said I was going to maximize, and you sit in that, you're actually gonna ruin your next day, or ruin. There are days when you're like, bro, if you just did the simple act of saying, fuck it, today's not going to happen, I'm just going to chill.
You feel better about it.
Bro, you will actually get some rest.
Yeah.
And then the next day, you can attack the day. And this is coming back to burnout.
Yeah.
I don't know that. I think the bigger issue with burnout is probably that identifying burnout.
Yeah, because you're going to hit it, but it's annoying.
But you don't even know if it is. Like, there are points when you know it's, okay, there's points that 100% are burnout, as in you sit down to do the thing and you can't do it. That's burnout for sure, because you're like, bro, I cannot will myself to physically work right now. That's 100% burnout. But there are things before that that are probably burnout too. Yeah. Before you even get to that point. And we don't recognize it. You know what I mean? Like, whether it be... maybe you're doing a terrible job of staying on top of communication, right? And typically maybe you're better about it, and you're noticing, oh man, it's slipping through the cracks here and there, whatever. You're on your way to burnout. Like, you're just, your bandwidth is not enough, and you're starting to, those little things start, a little drop of water, like what is it? Water torture, Chinese water torture, whatever. Yeah. It's like, and it's little by little, and then all of a sudden, boom, you can't work that day. Like, oh shit!
It's like little checkpoints.
I blocked out my whole Saturday. My wife's not gonna ask me to do anything. My son is cool. He's chilling. I have the whole day to work right now, and I physically cannot get a thing done right now. And you know what I'll do? At least early on, I will sit there and not do a fucking thing, and just talk shit to myself the whole day. Damn,
what type of shit
you're
talking?
So trash, bro. Oh my God. So you got the whole day, bro. You didn't, what? Seriously? Oh, hey, I wonder what the score was yesterday's game. You know, and then you start doing whatever. The whole day. This is procrastination. Yeah. It is, but it's also like I couldn't get it done. And then by the end of the day, I've worked myself into this, like, you know, this ball of anger.
Negative state.
Had I have early on recognize it, which is what I do now. I'm like, oh no, there's gonna be one of those days. Take the day. Yeah. Tomorrow, attack the day.
Yeah, I'm trying to get better.
Every time it works. Every time. Yeah. Like, sometimes you need 2 days. I'm not gonna lie to you, but the point is, you gotta give yourself grace.
Yeah, 100%. And like, sometimes it's hard. Because you're creative or even an entrepreneur, like sitting still and doing nothing.
The stakes are high.
Could equate to like you're losing money, or like things are gonna go terrible, or like you're falling behind, or like you're gonna lose this, you're gonna lose that, because it's not like people go to like a 9-to-5 job, and you could technically sit there and procrastinate and like kind of bullshit, but you're like, you clocked in. So like maybe you didn't do your best, but like you're good.
Oh yeah, you're gonna get paid for it.
Yeah, like you're there. You showed up. That was the half the battle. But when you're like on your own in your own business, it's like if you're just sitting around and you're like, man, today's not it. I'm just gonna chill and eat lunch, and you're like just beating yourself up all day because you're like, man, like I'm fucking, what am I doing?
And which, by the way, I would hate to be the employee that does that to an employer. Like I would never do that intentionally. But all I can say is if, and which is why, remember I said, if we don't negotiate properly, then everybody suffers. This is a perfect example. That would mean that I was eating shit. I was eating shit, working on way too many projects on my free time. And then when I came to work, I was wasted. Like not like in a, I was drinking or whatever. I burned myself out on my free time. So now I'm getting paid to be burnt out at work. Yeah. Which, I mean, that's better than getting burnt out on my own dime, but I respect the craft, bro. Like I'm like one of those people that I never understood. Like when you get fired from a job, you delete the files and you try to burn the world. Like I think that is disrespect to your craft and to your field. Like, no, bro, I want you to remember me as the quality person, as a designer. Forget employee. As a designer, I answer to a higher being in my regard. So like I'm doing this with pride and with quality, And I'm never going to, I don't want to be the guy that shows up and just, didn't do his job because he didn't feel like doing it, So I'll feel terrible about a day where I'm on the clock and didn't get any work done because I burnt myself out off the clock. And again, that's because I had to do the thing.
Yeah. No,
to make ends meet,
Not only you're disrespecting the business and yourself, but like there's someone else that could be in that seat that's probably hype about being there or executing something to like elevate that person's business. So it's interesting.
Yeah, man, it's like one of those, like you say yes to everything and then you're saying no to yourself, right? So
how do you say no?
Saying no is if you catch me at the wrong, depending on what side of this conversation you're on, if you catch me at the right time, I'm going to say yes to everything because that means I just had my cafecito, I'm caffeinated AF, and the world is my oyster and I'm ready to go. If you catch me at like neutral, I'll probably be more objective about it, which is bad for them because I'm probably going to say no in a respectful manner if it doesn't make sense. But I still do fall prey to that. So I have to be careful. The ones that I avoid the most now are like friend and family type of joints because those are the ones where I feel bad about charging. But I did something recently with a relative that I think was really smart. It was like, I need skin in the game because if there's no skin in the game, I'm not gonna do it.
Yeah.
Which is like, hey man, I'm not gonna charge you full price for this logo, but I need you to pay me because if you don't pay me, I'm gonna catch ghost on you at some point.
Yeah, getting resentful a little bit.
Yeah, I need to know that, hey, he paid me, I gotta finish this for them or whatever. So, that's a balance. But by and large, no is always gonna be a struggle depending on your personality, man. I do want to say yes. If I could say yes to everything, I would. There's certain things like I don't even want to be involved with that. Like, oh, bro, no, that's not for me. So, I mean, I could point you in the right direction. But if it's like helping, I always feel like a charitable design art stuff.
Yeah.
That tugs at my heartstrings. So I'm always like struggling to say no.
And how do you kind of balance the saying yes to, or not saying yes to, but like utilizing social media and like, I guess, building your brand as a person or behind the brand? And like doing more, even like this type of stuff, or
like
content.
Sharing other people's stuff.
Yeah, or just like being on social media, essentially, like because I see your page and it's more forward facing of your brand, and and things you're doing, but not like you.
Yeah, a couple of things there, like perfectionism is like procrastination in disguise. So I have I've kind of put myself I've like designed myself into a corner with the feed because I want everything to have that color background and it needs to be perfect. And I'm probably going to break away from that pretty soon because I just want to be able to be as flexible as possible. I've always been anti front of the camera because I don't like my voice. I don't like it's not my thing. Which is whatever. I got to do the soul searching on that stuff. But the way that I've always approached that was I do it so often for other brands that I don't, I think I give the brands more of the, like, I know how to do it is what I'm trying to say. Like I've done it successfully for other brands. So then when it comes to mine, I don't put the same amount of effort because it feels like work. So if I'm going to, one of the places in the design area of things where I feel like it's most work is social media, which is wild because it's still design, but of all the tools and experiences that I have, that's the one that feels the most like, I got to do that.
Yeah, because it's not something you're naturally like.
It's not so much that it's not naturally, it's just not enjoyable for me. Like, I don't know that long term I'd have to find the perspective or the way to flip that one to make it more enjoyable. I do find myself bumping into more hurdles getting that done than other things. Like I will sometimes, man, it's time for bed, but damn, I kind of wanted to play with that idea. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know that feeling.
Yeah.
And you'll go play with it and 3 hours might pass. But man, it's time for bed. I really got to post social media. Fuck that, I'm going to bed. That's the difference.
Right.
Right? Like I don't mind doing social media, but I'll never choose to do social media.
I get you.
Right. And that also bumps into really important, like when they say do what you love. which is really powerful, right? Because what happens is you're going to reach a point in the process of whatever you're doing that the only thing that's going to get you past that hurdle is passion or love, right? It doesn't matter what it is. You got to keep going, and you're going to have to figure out mentally how to get past it. And if you have love or passion behind it, you'll be more willing to stay up a little later, to work on that thing, etc. And then the next level, like enlightenment level of that, is love what you do, which means it doesn't matter what you're doing. You're the janitor at the fucking school and you adore doing a good job. You're going to do it well.
Right.
You get what I mean? And so the real thing to try to achieve is to just be passionate about the fact that you're even there. So like to do that, you got to be in a state of gratitude. You got to just be so thankful that you're even in the situation. Oh man, there's AC. I'm on a computer. I'm chilling. My family's good. Everyone's good. I'm healthy. My dog is healthy. You know, like everybody's healthy.
Sometimes we forget.
And like if you can find that state of gratitude, then maybe you don't mind, oh man, I got to cut out 50 people from these photos. It's like the most annoying version of graphic design.
Yeah.
But you don't care because you're just so happy that you're not outside, you know, like in the sun, or you didn't have to drive for an hour in traffic to be at somebody's office, right? You get to do it from the luxury, you know, from the comfort of home.
You have to remind yourself all the time. It's hard.
100%. That's a gratitude thing. Like when I say right in the morning, part of it should be like organizing your day. And also, hey man, I'm so grateful that I can do this. You know, you got to think back. This is how, transport yourself to when things weren't as great. Remind yourself, damn, I'm doing a lot better. Things could be worse. And I mean, that doesn't work all the time, but just, and then think of all the things that you do have. Like, oh man, this is I got electricity. The lights ain't cut out. You know, like whatever. I don't know how bad it got for you, but
but even in like, I used to like first off starting to do graphic design. Like I'm not good with dealing with clients or like that aspect of the part of the business. So in the beginning, I would like, if I got negative feedback or changes or whatever, I'd be like super upset or whatever. But then it was like a light bulb went off where I was like, man, like I started doing this because out of necessity, because I was broke, and I was like, oh, I could do graphic design on the side and it'll help with the DJing, whatever. And now I have like actual clients. I have clients that are like, they're not breathing down my neck, but they're like, hey man, like what's up with this, or this wasn't whatever. I'm like, bro, I used to like die for one client. So like,
pressure is a privilege.
So like I'm grateful for the problems because I didn't have any problems before.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, the problem was I was broke.
But then you gotta be able to do that at the moment. Like when you're in the pressure, you're not thinking about what a privilege. You're thinking about fuck, bro. It might contaminate your whole day. You might snap at somebody. You might like, the littlest thing might set you off because you're already there. You're like at an 8. And
Yeah.
Your dog barks at the wrong time. But you got to be able to acknowledge that at the moment and be like, oh man, this is a privilege right now. Because I remember when.
Yeah. No, I've definitely stopped myself from sending like some kind of not nasty emails, but like, what's the word? Like backhanded,
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay, bro, you saying that. But then you just like, I always picture myself on the other side of the screen. Like this person is not.
Oh, no, I always put people in abuelita or abuelita mode or little kid mode. I'm like, oh, I'm talking to abuelita or abuelito.
Yeah. And they're receiving something on the other side of the screen.
Yeah.
Not how you intended it to be, but they're just seeing it and they're like.
Yeah, I'm big on presentation because the way you present a thing is so important.
Yeah.
Like sometimes if the person that is presenting your work, for example, isn't advocating for it properly, they might go straight over their head, especially like with logos and stuff. Like, so it's a big deal, like how you're communicating with them. Voice notes are super powerful for that kind of thing. Like you might send a design and then follow it up with a quick voice note. Hey, bro, just so you know, I did this because it's, when you were a kid, you told me X, Y, Z. So I incorporated that. So I know it looks like a cloud, but really it's your childhood, whatever. I'm like, oh, snap. You get what I mean?
Yeah,
so like
resonates with them.
You gotta sometimes the way you present the thing, and then sometimes they just sometimes it might just be a little bit of a power trip because you put people in a position of critic, like to critique you, and they might take it a little overboard and want to nitpick certain things. And it's just a matter of kind of like respecting the moment and being like, hey man, I know, but I just want to let you know, hey, if we, I think it's good enough. I understand what you're saying, but if we want to hit this deadline, we probably need to make a decision really quick. So I can get this to you in 2 days, or we can fix this little thing and get it going, you know? And it comes from a place of the bigger goal, not like, not combative, just...
having that bigger picture.
Just talking to them and like, you know, the more time, this is what's so important. Like when you've built a relationship with a client, everyone takes for granted how important the relationship is, because each person you work with, you need to learn how they conduct themselves, and they need to learn how you conduct themselves. Some people need to have their hand held more than others, right? I've had people who will say, I'll know what I like once I see it, right? And then there's people who's like, they'll give you a bullet list, you know, 100 pages long of everything they want. So, you know, you treat those people differently. And every time you get a new client in, you have to start that process over again. So what you should be trying to do is developing the relationship with the client, assuming it's going to be a long-term one, and try to learn how to execute for the goal, right? So, okay, this person likes to communicate all the time, so I'll try to be a little bit better about that. But also, I'm not that great at communicating all the time, so I'll let them know, hey, man, this is what the expectation is. And once you have those things, but again, it's just kind of, you got to build that relationship with those kinds of things, you know?
Yeah, I mean, that's in life in general, with your friends, family, like, understanding the dynamics and how certain people are different than others. And
but that being said, there's like an educational element to it. So it's like you can assume that every time somebody comes into your funnel, so somewhere like your leads or whatever, you're bringing them in, there's an educational process there that you just can't automize. Or automate.
I don't want to use the word train, but like you almost have to train the client, and also like they know how you work, and then you know how they work, and then you kind of like develop that relationship. And also like, okay, he only communicates at this time, and like he's like open to like text all the time, or you know, whatever the case is.
I would, and this is kind of because there are things, right? Like you do set boundaries early on, like, you know, if you don't want to talk on the weekends, then you don't reply on the weekends, right? Like so there's kinds of those things, you're setting boundaries. There is an element of it where you have to make sure that you're not relying too much on the automated part of it, because there are going to be times when you need to casually reach out to them, right? It's not always, but there's going to be like, hey man, I hate to go into that, but there's going to be the guy you got to chase for the invoice, right? And sometimes the conversation can't be, hey man, you got to, you know, what's going on with the invoice? It's going to be too cold. It's too hard. So you got to come at them casually, just to let them know you exist and remind them, hey, there's an invoice there, right? So you might be like, bro, did you see the Heat game? You know what I mean? I was like, oh yeah, Emilio, I owe him money. But here's the thing. You can't start with the Heat game if you didn't have an initial conversation about the Heat game. Before. Like if you guys don't have a relationship where you talk about the Heat game, I can't bring up the Heat game. You got to
establish a rapport to even do that.
Part of your relationship building needs to be that you need to have some things that you can rely on to initiate conversation. Because here's the other one. Like forget invoices. Damn, I don't got any work for the next month. I need to reach out to these people. I don't want to be like, hey dog, you got any work for me? Hey, bro, you saw the Heat game? Yeah, she was crazy. I made this cool design. Hey, by the way, do you need anything? Let me know, because I got some free time. You get what I'm saying? You cannot do that if your relationship with them is here's design, here's the third design ready to print, and your communication is just all formal. You're not going to be able. It's just going to feel weird to just reach out.
I've had that issue in the past where like someone owes me money, and now I'm just like reacting to their Instagram stories. Fire. Remember me. And he just
like passive aggressive type stuff.
Passive aggressive emoji, like
no, bro. Cool, at the very, you always have to keep the conversation casual enough that you can always talk about whatever.
And they respect you enough for like, oh my god, bro, that completely slipped over my head. Like, I got you right now. Yeah, bro. I don't want to take up too much more of your time, so I'll just leave you.
Forget it. I'll keep going. Like I'm sure it's like 6 o'clock at night.
No, but I'll just leave you with this last question. What does creativity mean to you?
Creativity. Okay, so I identify as a creative person. Damn, I didn't mean to sound like that was like my my thing. But I mean, like when I say, there's a lot of people that will they put their identity into a thing, like whatever it might be. Like if you played baseball growing up, and then baseball no longer is a thing that you can pursue, you feel empty because baseball was who you identified as. Like I identify as a creative person. Like I think that if I was in a wheelchair and I couldn't use my arms and legs, I'd still be able to spout ideas, right? Because that's just to my core. And so for me, creativity is a way of life, and it's hard for me to think that nobody, like meeting people who don't have creativity is kind of weird. Like by and large, I see it in everybody. So for me, creativity is just, it's a force, it's a frequency, it's a thing that we all tap into. We all just, it's a filter we look through. It's a filter we listen through. And I love it. I pride myself in like, I want to flex that muscle as much as possible. If like being in a room just to spout ideas, like don't even hire me, bro. Just bring me in there. I want to go to the idea Olympics. Oh, who's going to come up with the best idea? Give me the gold. That's what I want to do. Like, I don't even care if there's a monetary thing to it. Like, I legit just want to snap on them, bro. This is my, you know how when you ask a rapper or you ask a basketball player, like, who's the best player or whatever, who's the best rapper? I'm the best rapper. That's where I feel like a rapper. Like, I'm like, nah, I'm the most creative mother. Like, get me in a room. I will add to that. Like, I will help you make that thing. And it's a mix of collaboration and a mix of like, I'm that guy. Like, it's never like a fuck you kind of thing. Yeah. It's more like oh, come on, bro. Let's go. Let's kill it. Let's blow this up, That's what creativity is to me. I don't know how to.
That was perfect. Idea Olympics.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, because that's a great point. Like, I've actually noticed more in the last couple of years of like just contributing to a conversation or like adding to ideas or coming up with ideas is fun. It doesn't have to go.
I almost get offended if I don't get included. Like I'm offended if you are in a room discussing ideas and like damn well Emilio loves discussing ideas and maybe I come in like a fucking tornado of ideas and like, he's too much, bro. Leave him over there. He's too much. That's all I can think of because I'm like, bro, how am I not like in your top 3 phone calls for ideas? Like, bro, I got this idea. You're thinking, and it's to my own like detriment sometimes because I've had people call me like, I got this idea for business and I need a logo and like they won't hire me, nothing. They never even go forward with it, but they infected me with that fucking idea, bro. And next thing you know, 2 months later am drawing on a napkin. Damn, that would have been the firest logo for that brand because it's still there. Like that stuff is a little, it's also could be a little bad, right? Like, but that's just how I live, man. Like I'm just in idea mode at all times. Like I'm just always.
Yeah, I love when someone asks you a question or even like an email. Email is even better because it's like very straightforward, like transactional. And they're like, hey, what do you think about this? I just wanted to blah, blah, blah. And then I reply back with like, bro, blah, blah, you can do that. And it's just an email. But then they're like, yo, wow, thank you. Like,
and if it's crazy, I'm like, I can't even type this. I got to voice note this shit because I'm going to look like a maniac with all this. Yeah.
I love that, man. Well, yo, I really appreciate you coming through, man.
Man, thank you so much for having me, bro. I love the podcast. I love, like I said, I resonate a lot with the messaging that you've been putting out. Creatives need this, not just in South Florida, but like worldwide.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
100%.
So yeah, if you want to plug your stuff so everyone knows where to follow your stuff. And
yeah, man, check us out. 305pride.com, 305pride on Instagram. And those are the 2 main spots. We do occasional pop-ups and we're always coming up with funny stuff. If you want to collab, man, hit me up. I'll try to say no in a polite way. But most likely I'll say yes because I'm constantly caffeinated. And let's do it, man. Let's rock. Let's make Miami big.
I love it, man. We're gonna do the Idea Olympics right now. Thank you, bro.
Thank you.